Hello, neighbor. Thank you for joining me tonight. Alicia Dolan here. Well, this afternoon. Alicia Dolan here at Creating in My Corner. And I ran upstairs real quick to get my tiara. Now, you don't get to wear a tiara very often, but it happens to be my birthday weekend. My birthday was on Friday. And so I wanted to tell you that I'm going to have a Stampin' Up! Ordering special. If you order by tonight, by 11 o'clock tonight, I will include with your order a special pack of gems. Now, I don't know which gems you're going to get yet, but that will be a surprise to both you and me. So I am glad that you could join me here tonight for this afternoon. Because Stampin' Sunday is usually in the evening. But I have some things going on this evening, so I wanted to come live because I didn't want to miss you all. So I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm here. And we are going to make something really cute. I'm going to turn around the camera and we are going to get started. So hold on just a moment. All right, here we are. Let's see if I can make this a little less shiny. No, that didn't help. Okay, we are just going to go ahead and get started. So I'm not sure. I think it was just last week that we made, no, it was the week before. We made a really cute card that looked like this. And I don't know if you got to watch the video or not, but I just noticed that I don't think all my videos save on YouTube for a very long time. So I try to usually upload them to YouTube, and I know that I haven't got around to getting a couple through. But I really like this card. I thought it turned out really pretty. What I want to do with you today is change it up just a little bit and make something similar but different. So today I would like to show you, I just recently found how to make one of these cards in one of my team meetings. And this is a card that will hold a gift card. So you can, let's see, I don't think I have any little gift cards down here, but this is a little pocket that opens up so that you can slide your gift card right inside here. And what we're going to do tonight is we are going to copy this card. So we need to get out our cardstock, our ink, and our stamps. So to copy this card, we're going to need the Trees for Sale stamp set. And we're also going to need the tree lot dies. Now, if you don't have the tree lot dies, you can still make this card. You just won't have this little evergreen tree that pops up a little bit from the card. Okay, so we need our Lights Aglow paper. This is a 6x6 designer series paper, and it's in the mini, I believe it's in the mini catalog that goes from July through December. We need some evening evergreen cardstock. Which is right here. And I will put all the directions and measurements for this card in the email that'll go out tomorrow. So if you are signed up for my email list, you will get the directions for this card, like basic cutting instructions. And then you can head over to YouTube and follow along with the video because I will upload it to YouTube, especially since I realized that not all the videos stay as long as I thought they did. Here. We also need some basic white cardstock. We need a basic white envelope. We need our evening evergreen ink and our craft white ink. Okay, there are those. And we have our tree lots, our tree lot dies, and our trees for sale stamp set. So we're going to copy this card. Now, if you get cards in the mail that you like and you want to copy them, then this will give you a good idea how to do that. And a main part of Stampin' Up is they always say case the cards, which just means copy and share everything. So that's what case stands for. I am trying to see if anyone is watching tonight. And as usual, I cannot tell 100%. So if you're watching and you could just comment or give me a thumbs up so that I know someone is out there, that would be really awesome. If you don't want to or don't have the time, then that is fine too. It just helps me to know how many people are watching and who's out there. All right, so what we're going to do to case this card is first, we're going to take our ruler. And if you don't have a ruler, you can use your, you can also use your grid paper to measure. You can use your paper trimmer, whatever you need. But this is just a basic clear ruler that I got in the quilting section at Joann's. So we're going to measure the base of our card, and it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So it's a standard size base. So we're going to get our evening evergreen. And as we go along, I am going to grab a Post-it note and I'm going to write down these measurements because I'm certain that I had them written down at one time. And now I couldn't find them when I started the video. So over here on the side, I'm just going to write down my measurements. So the base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. All right, so we're going to take our cardstock, and I need to move my trimmer over a bit because I'm bumping into my camera. And we're going to cut it here at 5 1/2. And I'm going to set this piece up here off to the side for a moment. I'm going to turn my cardstock the other direction and I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4. And then actually I can make 2 card bases. So I'm going to set this one off to the side because it's already cut and ready to be trimmed. Now the next layer on our card, I don't know if you can see it real clearly or not, but there's a piece of designer series paper that goes on the back. And we're going to measure that. That is 4 inches by 3 inches. Okay, so we can open up our light to glow paper. And I think this is the other half of the piece that I cut the first time. This lights aglow paper is really pretty. It's most of the pieces are a little plain on one side, and they have some really nice gold embossing on the other side. That actually would be a really pretty piece or something, but this is the side I'm using this one. So let's measure and make sure it's cut at 3. I think it's the other half of the one I was using. Yep, 3 by 4. We're going to trim that at 4, and then I'm going to put this other piece aside because I'm sure I'll find a use for that. Now I can put some liquid glue on here. And with the liquid glue, it's always best to use as little as possible. So I usually do a thin line around the edge and then a squiggle down the middle. And we'll turn that over and glue it right here. Kind of center it on the bottom. Glue it there. Now this card, I was shown this card, as I said, in a team meeting, and it was a meeting of Rhonda Wade's. And I think that she cased it from someone else's card. And now we need a piece of evening evergreen. That is, let's measure. Looks like 9 3/4 by 3 5/8. Okay, so that's a little bit tricky. Okay, not super tricky, but it's not a regular measurement. Nine and 3/4 quarters. Okay, so let's cut that 3 5/8. So we're going to line that up right here and cut it. We've got a little strip left. Well, I'm sure we'll use that for something. And then 9 3/4. And cut that. All right, and then we need to measure another time to see where we need to place that score mark. So if we measure here from the bottom to where the score mark is, it's 4 7/8. At least that's what it looks like. So that's what we're going to try. So 4 7/8 would be right there. And we'll give that a score. Okay, and then we can fold that. And I always like to fold, when you score, you have one side that's the hill and one side that's the valley. And I always fold my score marks into the hill so that the hill's on the inside of the card. I can't remember who taught me that, but it's been a long time since I started stamping, and I feel like that was just a thing I learned. I couldn't tell you the exact reason why, but okay, so now we have our next layer ready. And on the inside, we need a piece of basic white that measures 3.5. Okay, we're going to have to do a little adding here. Basic white, only because I didn't write down the directions when I made this card. Or if I did, I can't find where I put them. Let's see, this is 4.5. So I'm going to fill out 4.5 plus 2.5. So that's going to give me 7, right? And the score line is going to be at that 2.5 on the small side. So let's get our basic white. And we need it to be, I already forgot what the width was, 3.5. 3.5 by 7. And we're going to score it at 2.5. All right, so we're going to cut this one at 3.5 right here. And I have to hold it because I'm running into my camera again. All right, 3.5. And then by 7. And then we are going to make the score line at 2.5. And I flipped it over because sometimes my paper has a little edge on it, and I like to fold it in towards that edge. So I'm going to score it here at 2.5. And then I know that this part is going to be my pocket. So, well, this way, actually. So I'm going to fold it up like this. The other way. I don't know why. Anyway, we're going to fold it on that score mark. And then I'm going to stamp my stamping on this part before I move on to the next. So I'm going to stamp So Very Merry and my little tree. Now I went to a Stampin' retreat this last weekend on Saturday. So no, yes, Saturday. It's Sunday. I went there on Saturday and I forgot my Stamparatus. So luckily I can go back and get it. But for tonight, I'm going to have to use some block. So here we go. I have, let's see, I've got block C. I've got one paper pumpkin block. I have block E and block I. And I think that should be enough. Stamp all of my things I want to stamp. So first, I'm going to stamp the So Very Merry. But I'm going to grab another little scrap of grid paper. And I've got one right here with a whole bunch of trees on it already. So that'll work perfect. Because I'm going to stamp off, I don't really want to stamp on my Stampin' Pierce mat just because I don't want to have to clean it. So let's get our trees for sale stamp set. And these trees here are what you call two-step stamps. So you're going to stamp the shadow image and then you're going to stamp the inside image. And first, I forgot to put the thing down and step to the other side. Okay. So first I'm going to stamp this kind of middle-sized tree. It's kind of tall and skinny, but I want it to go right here. So I'm going to put that on my paper pumpkin block. And right here is a little stamp that will stamp the base of the tree. So I'm just going to stick that on this other little block. I know I said I was going to stamp So Very Merry first, so I'll put those to the side. And then on this one, I will put the So Very Merry. Okay. When I line up my stamps, the tree I did not do this with because it doesn't have words. But I like to line up my block along my grid paper and then try to line up my stamp so that it follows one of those lines. And for me, that makes it a little bit easier when I'm stamping to get my words straight. Okay, so now we're going to open up our Evening Evergreen ink. I'm going to set it right here. Let me see that you can still see where I'm stamping. I think you can, but I'm going to move it up a little bit just so you can see it a little better. Okay, I think that's better. Okay. I'm going to add some ink to my stamp, and I'm going to do that by just tapping very gently on the stamp pad. Stampin' Up stamp pads are kind of a foam pad. They're not a felt pad, and so they're really squishy. And if you press your stamp into them too hard, you'll get a little too much ink and it will go everywhere. And it won't be as neat and tidy. So I try to avoid that if I can. I'm going to move it just a little bit to the right. And then when I stamp, I'm going to lay it down and press in the center. Not hard, but firm. And then just pick it up. And there is our stamp. And then I like to stamp off a little bit before I clean my stamp, just so that my Stampin' Up chamois doesn't get too much ink sucked into it. Hey, Kim, I'm glad you made it. I'm a little bit early today because we have company coming over, and so I wanted to get my video in, but I didn't want to do it really late. So here I am a little bit early. I know that's totally unusual, but hopefully it will work out. And if you missed the beginning, I'm going to upload it onto YouTube later. Okay, I'm going to put this So Very Merry down because I did realize that not all of my Facebook videos only stay for a certain amount of time. And I hadn't realized that. I thought they just hung around so that people could watch them forever, whenever. And evidently that's not the case, because as I was looking for them, because I had to look back, I couldn't remember exactly what videos we had already stamped. That's pretty terrible, isn't it? But so I was trying to find what I'd already stamped. so that I wouldn't be doing exactly the same thing. And I had trouble figuring it out. Okay, so now I'm stamping that shadow image of the trees for sale, the medium-sized tree. And after I add my ink onto my stamp, I'm going to stamp off one time because I want there to be kind of an obvious difference between the layers that I'm stamping. So then I'm going to stamp this right here and move that over to the side. Now I need one more, I think I need one more block because these ones are a little bit on the big side. Okay, and of course I cannot find what I did with all my other blocks. Well, that we'll just have to do. I guess I'll have to use the big one and it will be what it will be. All right, so we need the second layer of that medium-sized tree, which is this image right here. And inside our case, it's this one right here in the middle. So I'm just going to put that in the middle of that block and ink it up again by just tapping on that foam ink pad until my tree is pretty covered. There we go. I think we've got a good layer on there. And then we're going to line it up over top of that shadow image. And we're going to stamp it down. Again, we're just going to lay it down, press in the center, and then pick it up. And there is our tree. And I forgot that the last time I actually used brown for the bottom stand. Okay, so I'm going to stamp that off, clean it on my chamois. I need to get out my brown ink. I think the brown that I used was Early Espresso. Oh, I see that you said you didn't know that, but I've been talking so much. I'm not sure what you didn't know. So I'll have to go back and I'll watch it. Okay, so now I've got my Early Espresso out. I'm actually going to close up this evening evergreen while I'm not using it, just so I hopefully can keep my workspace a little bit cleaner. And I'll grab the little bottom part for the tree and tap that on my ink pad. And there's a good layer, and I'm going to stamp off again because I don't want it to be very dark underneath my tree. There we go. And so there is my little pocket for the inside of the card. And I'm gonna set that aside. Let's see. So we've got our, so far, we have our base. Oh, about the videos on Facebook. Yeah, I didn't know that either, but when I was searching for them today, I couldn't find any more than 2. And I don't know if I was just searching wrong or I have no idea, but I couldn't find any more than 2. And it said something about they only post for 30 days. So it may be a setting I need to change. I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that. Okay, so here's our base. This is Evening Evergreen, and that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then we added our layer of Designer Series paper. That's 3 by 4. So I'm going to set that aside. That's what we have so far. Plus we have a piece of Evening Evergreen that is 3 5/8 by 9 3/4. scored at the half point and folded in half. And then we made our inside piece that is 3.5 by 7 and scored at 2.5. So this part is 2.5. All right, and then we're gonna, let's see, let's stamp our greeting next for the outside. Oops, I gotta clean off this bottom of this stamp because we're not gonna need this one anymore. And I'm gonna put that tree base back away because that's a little tiny stamp and it's very likely to get lost. Those little baby stamps have a habit of getting stuck on other things and running away. So it's best if I get them put away right away. All right, so on this piece, let's stamp our Christmas greetings. So we're gonna need our evening evergreen ink again. And we're gonna need our Christmas greetings. So I'm gonna take this second layer of the Christmas tree stamp and I'm gonna set that back in the case. I'm gonna get out the Christmas greetings stamp, this one right here. And then I'm gonna put my block down along that grid line again so that I can line up my words along one of those lines on my grid paper. And hopefully that will help my stamping be, oh, that's really crooked. Okay, hold on. I gotta bring it down a little closer to me maybe because I didn't do a good job of that. All right, let's see. You know what? Let's do it a different way. I'm gonna line my words up along that line right there. And then I can line my block up along the line and just press them together. And that looks a lot straighter than what I had before. Okay, so now we'll add some evening evergreen ink to our stamp. And we'll stamp it right down here and press in the middle and then just pick it up. Sometimes they get a little bit stuck to the stamp because of how damp they are and they're a little bit sticky on their own. Okay, we'll clean that off. I know you guys are excited to get to the trees with the snowflake part, so I'm trying to hurry to get there. But I don't want to forget anything in the process. Okay, let's close this up. Set that to the side, and we're going to take our snips and we're going to trim around this Christmas greetings. So you can leave it if you want to without trimming around. This is not a necessary step, but I like to sometimes just trim around my greetings. And sometimes I use a pencil to draw a line around them first, and that helps me cut a nice smooth greeting. But I'm not going to take the time to do that right now, and hopefully it will all work out anyways. All right, so there is our greeting, and we can set that aside. Whoops, I almost lost it. Okay, and now we need a piece of evening evergreen. So let me grab my cardstock here and see if we have a scrap that will work for our little tree. And I think we do. I have one. Looks like right here that I cut the other tree out of. Okay. So we're going to take that evening evergreen ink and I'm going to, let's see, I think that was the large tree. So I'm going to peel this one off. I can't tell if I cleaned that or not, you guys. So I'm going to give it a quick swipe on this chamois, just in case. I don't want to be getting ink everywhere. And it looks a little bit cleaner now. So I'm glad we took the time to do that. Okay. And this time we are going to use this big one here. Now, if you don't have the Tree Lots dies to go with the Trees for Sale set, you're going to want to skip this step. Okay, because just because you won't need that extra little tree up there. This is what we're doing right now. Let me show you. We're making this little pop-up tree. So we're just going to stamp on here. I'm going to ink up my stamp first. Just by tapping on that ink pad. And let's see, I think I stamped off for this one. So I'm going to stamp off once. And then I'm going to stamp on my evening evergreen cardstock. And I'm going to sit this to the side for a minute because we're going to take the time right now to stamp our trees here on the front of the card. All right, so here is our piece for the front. And we're going to open it up so that we're working on the front side. And what we're going to do is ink up our stamp again. And we're going to stamp one tree at full strength. We're going to ink it up again. And stamp another tree at full strength over here. And then we can puff on it a little bit and we can stamp off one tree up higher. Then we'll ink up our stamp again. Stamp off on our scrap. Puff on our stamp a little bit. And then we can stamp off once more on this side. And then we are done with the shadow tree stamp. So we'll just grab our chamois and wipe that off. Like it got all the way clean, but I can't tell where it is. I think it's behind there. I'm gonna wipe off the other side of that too. Okay. Now we're gonna put that one back. And we'll grab the inner stamp for that two-step stamp, and that's the largest one, remember? And we're just going to place that on our block. Tap it on the ink. And then in full strength, we're going to stamp over top of this tree here that we stamped full strength the first time. We're going to huff on it. Actually, you know what? We're going to add more ink. So I did huff on it, but I'm still going to add more ink. And then I'm going to stamp on each of those trees that are in the background. Just like that. And then I'll stamp off and stamp around. Okay, and let me pull this up so maybe you can see it a little more clearly so that you can see how it's stamped. So if you had just stamped, is what it would look like. And that's fine, but it just gives it a little extra definition with that inside stamping. Okay, so now we're going to switch back to our first tree that we stamped, and we're going to add that inside bit. And stamp in there. Now, here's another idea. If you wanted to, when you do this second stamp, you could do it in Versamark and then add some white embossing powder. And that would give your tree the image like maybe it had snow on it. So maybe I'll have to try that. I haven't tried it yet, but I bet it would be really pretty. Okay, so now my stamp is cleaned off. I'm gonna clean off my fingers real quick because I actually got some green ink on those too. And I'll put this stamp back away. And then we are going to, I'm going to run this through the embossing machine and I'm going to cut that tree out. So if you open your tree lot dies, inside there you have one outer shape for each of those size trees. Now this is an inside layer that actually you can pop little pieces up a little bit and it gives it a lot more texture than it would have otherwise. And I haven't tried that yet either, but I've done it with a different tree set and it's really, really pretty. All right, so I'll be right back. I'm just going to cut that tree out. Hold on, my die scooted and I have to fix it. Okay, so after I run it through the embossing machine, this is the little tree image that we've got. So we need to put our tree lot die away. Because we only needed one little tree this time. I have not used that cute little camper set, but I am looking forward to it. I haven't got that done yet. So the tree lot dies you get as a, I think they're a celebration item. Let me double check because I don't want to tell you you can order it if you cannot. And Sale-A-Bration actually runs through August 31st. So anything in this little celebration book, you can get through August 31st. But in order to get it, you have to place a $50 order. Okay, or a $100 order. So the tree lot dies are free with a $100 order. So if you don't have the Trees for Sale stamp set yet, you can order that and some paper and some other fun stuff, and you'll find it is not hard to get to $100 to order to qualify for those rewards. And Sale-A-Bration only happens twice a year, so Those are the only times that you can earn those extra free stamps. So next we are going to stamp these cute little snowflakes. And let me tell you a little something about these. We're going to put them on this little block, but these are really small stamps, and we're going to be stamping them in craft white. So when you're stamping with craft white, it's a little bit different than the classic inks. It's definitely more wet. You can actually emboss with it. And it's the same process. You just want to tap really gently to gather up that ink. But because it's far more wet than the other ones, when you're stamping with it, you want to stamp pretty carefully. So you're just going to lay that stamp down and press it really gentle. You don't want to push it down because it's going to smash your image. And then you'll get like a center line where there isn't as much ink and kind of an outline around it where the ink stays. So we're going to keep stamping. We're going to kind of turn our stamp and press it down. And we can actually go to stamp. You're really just laying them on the paper with the tiniest bit of firm pressure. But see how they kind of look like they're fading up? I kind of like that look. All right, and then because we're getting close to the top, I'm going to stamp off a little bit and then just add a few more stampings of them, if that makes sense. Because I want that whole area to be covered with snowflakes. There we go. So there are our snowflakes that go up to the top, and it's really the same. It's pretty much the same process that we used a couple weeks ago when we made this card. We're just doing a little different measurements so that we get a different end project. All right, we're going to stamp that off, and I'm going to clean this on my chamois. Now you might find with this craft ink that it gets a little more stuck in the crevices of your stamp. And if that's the case, you can use some Stampin' Mist right on the stamp and then scrub it off on one of these Stampin' Scrubs. But these just get into those little nooks and crannies a little bit better. So if you're using Versamark or craft ink, you might find that cleans a little bit nicer than what the chamois does. The chamois is definitely good for most of your cleaning needs. All right, so we are done with our stamps and our dies for now. We're going to do one more thing with our Whisper White ink. And I was going to use a little sponge dauber, but I didn't have any clean ones. And for this, I definitely wanted a clean one. So I just used a little piece of sponge that I had laying around. And we're going to open our craft white ink, and we're just going to sponge around the bottom so that it looks like a little snowy landscape here. So we're just going to sponge up to the bottoms of the trees, just like this. And you can add as little or as much as you want to. You can have all kinds of little snow, or you can just have a little bit of snow, whatever your heart desires as you're crafting. I know it's a little hard for some of us to talk about snow right now. It's the end of July, the very last day of July. And so not everyone is looking forward to the snow. Okay, now we're going to assemble our cards. So I'm going to move my Stampin' Pierce mat, and we are going to assemble our card. So here's our base, and this will be our next layer. This will go inside, and then we're going to tie some twine around there and make it look cute and add our greeting. So for this little pocket, we are going to use our liquid glue, and we're just going to put it along the side. So we want a little bit here along this edge, and we're kind of going to smoosh it down just with the tip of that glue. And then we're going to put some along this side, just like that. A little bit on either side. Excuse me. I clear my throat a little bit. I feel like I'm talking a little too much today. Okay, and then we're going to press those down so they'll dry. Make sure they're lined up along those edges. And we can turn that over. Put a thin line of glue around the edge, just like that. And do a squiggle in the middle. Okay. And then we'll turn that over. And we're going to place it right in the center of this piece here. Okay. All right, I'm going to grab some twine because I don't see it real close to me. Okay, and this is the craft twine. So I always like to try and straighten it out a little bit before I put it on something. It's not going to uncurl, but it helps me to tie the bows if I take and just put a little pressure and straighten it just a hair before I start working with it. So we're going to hold it here, and we're going to wrap it around. 1, 2, I'm going to go 3 times, just because 3 is a good odd number. And we'll tie a little bow. Right up here at the top. I didn't turn it upside down this time. I usually turn my bows upside down, but this one seemed to work. When it's ribbon, it's a little more crucial than when it's twine. I do have better luck with twine bows than with ribbon ones. Okay, so then we're just going to trim off the extra here on both sides. I'll move that twine out of the way. Okay, so here is our card front. I'm going to turn that over and add some glue around the back. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to do thin line around, I went crooked right there. Around the edge and a squiggle down the middle. And we can turn this over and put it right in the center of our card base. You guys, this is so cute. I can't wait to see if you make one. And now you can do this with any stamp set, any set of colors, any pattern. All right, and I really don't want my bow to be on the right side. But since I haven't tied it down, I wonder if I can, I don't think I can scoot it. Sometimes I can, but I must have tied it a little bit tighter than normal. All right, it's just gonna have to go there. And my greetings are gonna have to, they're just gonna have to handle it. Okay, so I'm gonna turn my Christmas greeting over. And I'm gonna add some mini dimensionals to the back. Just like that. I'll peel off their backs. You guys, I totally forgot to put that little tree on there, but we still have time. We're not done yet. Okay. And we're going to put our greeting right here on the front. And like I said, you can use a different die to cut this greeting out. You can trim it a different way. You could leave it as a square. There's lots and lots of options. Okay, and here is our little Christmas tree. And I'm going to add some dimensionals to that. Maybe 3. Let's do 1, 2, 3. And peel their backs off. And let's put our little tree right here in the front. Kind of want to put it in between those other two so they stick out a little bit. And here is our super cute card ready to hold a little gift card. So then you open it up. It has this little pocket. You could put a gift card in. If I had a gift card, I'd show you, but I don't. And that could be really cute. Now, the other thing you could do is on your envelope, like the envelope that we made for our previous card like this, you can add a little Christmas tree to the corner, and it's kind of fun. It's just a fun little thing that you can add. I am so glad that you joined me here tonight, that you are liking my videos, and I really appreciate it. So if you're watching on YouTube and you could like and subscribe, that would be great. If you're watching on Facebook and you want to share with someone who might appreciate it, that would be good too. And don't forget that I have the ordering special for my birthday. Birthday special only goes till 11 o'clock tonight. And if you order any amount, it doesn't matter, make sure that your address is in there as a customer. I will send you a pack of gems. But you do have to use the host code. Okay, so the host code is, that way I know that you're ordering for the birthday special. The host code is Y2W9VAAZ. And you will see it in the video, and I'll post it too in the description in case you missed it for whatever reason. Thank you for joining me tonight. I will see you next Sunday. Happy stamping.